Hey everybody, welcome to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford. The point of this show is to help improve ourselves as dogmen and to raise the quality of the dogs on the end of our lead. So let's settle in, turn the volume up, and let's see if we can't learn a trick or two together from our guests. Hey everybody, you are listening to the Slick Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Langford, and today we've got Bobby Taylor on the phone. How are you doing, Bobby?
Doing great. Doing great.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump right into it. I was kind of want to talk about the. Now, did you go to the fall hunt in Jamestown the other day?
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah, I went. We
how?
went on a Friday. We had a meeting, and then I had to take care of the squirrel hunt on Saturday morning. So yeah, I went.
Well, how'd the hunt go? Tell us about it.
We had which I had to be. We had a meeting Friday, and then Friday night they had a coon hunt, which I had to go to a couple with my wife. So anyway, we had to go do that. But I wasn't there for the coon hunt. But then Saturday morning we had a squirrel hunt, and it was a pretty good turnout. I think we had 16, I think is what it was, and had a pretty good turnout. And I think a majority of everybody seen squirrels. Pretty good time. I think the dogs all done pretty good. I reckon everybody. And this just a 1 round hunt, just an hour and a half is all it was. Then they had a bench showing a treeing contest right after that. But that's about all. That's about all it was to the squirrel hunt, I guess.
Yeah, I saw where Clark Matthews had posted about the. He kind of made like a board of directors meeting recap post, and kind of talked about some new stuff in it a little bit. I guess made some new committees.
Yeah. We've got several new committees, which I mean, he's wanting to do that. So whenever we have a meeting, we won't take all the time up, just trying to talk about whatever, like the hunt rules. You can just about go a whole 2 hours talking about hunt rules, or you get
Mm-hmm.
off on a rabbit hole, I guess, kind of, whenever you're talking about them, because it's and then back and forth and back and forth. So we're gonna have, I think it's about 4 or 5 committees. I think is what we got there, and I got hunt committee, and I can't remember all of them exactly. I tell you the truth, but
Well, the one that
I think
really
there was 5.
the one that really piqued my interest was the DNA committee.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. I think the DNA committee. I think it's me and I think Samuel and maybe. Actually, I can't remember who all it was. Me, Samuel, I think, and John Newman. I can't remember the other one. Anyway, I know there's probably 4 of us, I think. But yeah, we're going to what Clarkers want us to do. Is kind of get. But we ain't got a proposal. Nothing's going on yet. No proposals. No nothing. He just wanted to get a committee in case we ever did have a proposal, and we don't have the legwork. Pretty much already done. And talked to some people about who we're going to have do it and how we're going to do it. Because we've never had it implemented, and talk to maybe NSD or which I was on the first committee. We was on the first time we had it, which was what 19, I think.
Sounds
First
about right.
proposal we had.
Sounds
I
about
think
right.
it was 19, but anyway, that one, when it went to the vote of the people or the members, and it got voted down. But yeah, that's kind of how it's going to go, I guess. We're going to at least try to get something, but there ain't no proposals on the table. They ain't even talking about a proposal, but and so I don't know what it's going to ever come about, or they might not be nothing come about it. You know how that goes. And if the people don't want it voted in, or the members, say the members who I'm talking about, the members don't want it voted in, it won't never be voted in anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that goes. But we just gonna do the legwork, and try to get everything set in place if we ever did, have anything. Who would take care of it? Would it be Paula or? And I would figure it would. I mean, because actually, when we got Paula to do her job, we kind of mentioned that to her, that it might inquire some more to it, whenever it come in the if we ever got DNA or didn't, whatever. So we kind of got her a little bit on board a little bit, when we hired her. So
Yeah.
But well, and another thing, we kicked around. All of us board members kind of kicked around a little bit, maybe not make it mandatory, but make it like a super stakes, but I mean, you probably know, you might know a little bit about super stakes, but I kind of don't, but I think it's kind of like a puppy thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's mostly it's kind of it's like a futurity type of deal to where it incentivizes you to get in the program because
Okay.
it makes it where they'll have special hunts specifically for the dogs that are DNA registered. At least
Okay.
that's the way they do it in Super Stakes. And
Okay. That's kind of what they was kind of want to kick around a little bit, and on CBA, I guess, as far as that's what they was kicking around. I mean, and they whether it be mandatory or be, if you wanted to, or like a super stakes or, or something to that effect or something. We make up our own kind of idea or whatever, with that. I really don't know what they, I don't know if it'll ever be implemented. It probably won't, honestly, but
yeah, I'd interviewed Samuel here a while back, and he seemed like he had a lot of really good ideas about trying to implement something kind of like that. So
yeah, they have. Like I said, I don't know much about the hound stuff, but I mean, I don't know really how it works or nothing. I never fooled with hounds. I mean, I've always had cur dogs since I've been little, and I'm 54, so that's about all I've ever known has been cur dogs. Never fooled with a hound in my life. Never had one.
yeah.
But
Well, it seems like with the new management leadership in the OMCBA, there's definitely kind of some things on the move. It seems like.
yes.
Well,
I mean, it's just like anything. I mean, I don't care if you or me or Clark or whoever was the best at being a president there ever was. Everybody looks at stuff different, and these new ideas. Everybody's got a new, different ideas. That's and it's good for something, and it's good. We implemented. I think it was term limits. I think it's 3 years. I think or 2 years. I can't remember. But we're never going to have a president and a vice president roll off at the same time. You don't want that. You don't want the whole cabinet, everything to be gone at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we made it where president or vice president was in there, from the year before at least,
Yeah.
So yeah, we got that going, and it's good for anything. I mean, in my opinion, I think anything would get stagnant. You get complacent. Anything you do, you get complacent if that's the case,
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw
Yep.
I saw a post where advertising for a Battle of the Breeds hunt. It's going to be.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. It's going to be. I think I seen it was in April. We voted in. I think it was in April. April the 20 something. I think. And it's going to be a 9 hunt. I can't remember if we're going to have a bench show and string contest or not, but I know we're going to have a 9 hunt and a squirrel hunt. It's going to be full elimination, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
So, about like a normal world hunt, I guess, kindly. And I think they said they was going to use OMCBA rules, which I wouldn't be opposed to using any kind of rules if everybody could come together,
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to use OMCBA rules, what I've seen. Yeah, it's going to be Kimmer and Steven Stock and UMCA and what's the other one?
OMCBA.
Is there another one?
I think it was just those four on the poster.
I guess that's stupid. That's us. Yeah, I wouldn't even count us, but yeah.
Yeah.
So they anyway, yeah.
You guys just gonna put a tape of trash bag over the OMCBA only dogs allowed on premises sign for that weekend, or how's that gonna work?
They're as much OMC. I hate to say this. I mean, they're as much OMCBA as probably any dog we got. Just tell you the truth,
Yeah.
They was in it to begin with. Put it that way. Yeah, that's about all you can do, I guess. Well, it looks like it because that's what it says, ain't it?
It sure does.
I think we're gonna, I think we got a little bit different thinking now. I hope. I mean, it's like hunting around here. I mean, there is nowhere near the hunter. Everybody acts like hunters, squirrel hunting's getting bigger. It ain't in this country. I mean, it ain't even close. Back when I was a kid or in my 20s, you'd go down here at Catoosa, it's 100,000 acres. I'm 54, so I tell you how long ago it was. But back in my 20s, you could go to Catoosa, 100,000 acres, spots everywhere. You couldn't, on a Friday and Saturday, you couldn't find a place to pull off to hunt. And if you did, they'd be dogs everywhere, trees, squirrel hunt. You'd hear shots and dogs and all over that place. And now, I went there 4 times last year. I seen one truck.
Huh.
I mean, it ain't bigger here. I mean, what it is, I think there's more competition hunters, but man, there is so many people that used to squirrel hunt up there and around this where I live at. I can't tell you how many squirrel hunters there was in this country I lived in when I was young. I mean, it was about everybody down here. I mean, where I lived, and you can't name 3 or 4 now. It's different now than what it used to be. Sure is.
Sounds like it.
Yes, it is. But I think there's more competition hunters now than there used to be, by far. I mean, which when we was hunting, actually, it wasn't a competition hunt back then. The very first squirrel hunt ever, world hunt, was in KC, and it was in 1987, best I can remember. So back then, we was all hunting back in the 80s and 70s. They wasn't no squirrel hunt. They wasn't no word squirrel hunt nowhere, at that point. 87 was the first in KC, and 90, I'm pretty sure, was the first on CBA world hunt, best I can remember. And it was in Mississippi, is where it was. The very first one was in Holly Bluff, Mississippi.
So how would you say the dogs have changed?
The dogs, I think they're probably overall probably a better tree dog probably now. I don't know that they're. Man, there was some good ones way back yonder. I'm telling you that they was pretty tough. They was a little bit. There's more heads up, I think, way back then. Honestly, that's my opinion. I mean, way back when I was back in the 90s, they was a little bit more heads up type and a little bit quicker type. More heads up to me anyway. And then I think now it's a little bit of hound influence. I think they're a little bit trackier to me. A little better tree dogs, a lot of them are. That's what it seemed like to me anyway. It's back in them 90s, man. I mean, Carl, my uncle C. Dog Vaughn had a dog called Old Yeller. He was bad news. I mean, Goldie, female Bernie Rubel, she was bad. Carl's, dog back in, Jake and all them, they was all quick, fast. I mean, they zipped through that head up and wham, more of that kind of dog back then days.
Mm-hmm.
But on a bad day, you could probably beat them with a tracker dog, real kind of tough, real bad day, because they wasn't going to make trees,
Yeah.
But, a lot of dogs nowadays will make a tree, But they're a little better tree dogs, I'd say, overall, now than what they was back then. But there's some real tree dogs. I mean, some of the dogs I said, they stay treed all day, but that wasn't the normal, though,
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the norm for a mountain cur dog to stay treed all day long back then. But there was some that would do it. You could leave them in there all evening.
Well, if we can kind of switch gears here a little bit and kind of switch over to what I really brought you on here to talk about is more kind of about your breeding program and just kind of the way you hunt and train.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, I kind of got started with dogs. I mean, when I was a kid, and that was a long time. We had some mixed up dogs and we finally got a little streak dog, and we got her. She actually was out of streak, I guess. Anyway, she was a half white faced dog. And we done really good with her, and then we let Carl have her, and then Carl sold her Tommy Malone. The first world hunt, she was in the picture. She done really good. But anyway, that kind of got me wanting the quicker Streak put a little bit quicker, faster dog in dog. You know, he had a little bit more heads up type and a little bit more hustling type of dog. But from there, I went on and I hunted a lot of dogs for Peanut Beatty. You know, I don't know if you know Peanut or heard of him.
Heard of him.
Anyway, I hunted a lot of dogs with Peanuts, and then I got that's probably back in, I don't know, as in the early '90s, I'd say at that point. '92 there, I had a little female, me and Peanuts Happers, and I got fifth place, I guess it was, in her 9 months old in the USDR World Hunt. You probably never heard of it, have you? USDR. That's back in.
Not sure I have.
They're gone. I mean, they've been gone for a long time, but that was back in the '80s and '90s is when they was around. But they's from Texas. The guy was. I think that the Manning that hunts hounds, that was been his grandpa or daddy. I think the Manning, he was a Manning.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of the Manning guy out of Texas. Got them real good hounds, but I think that was his daddy or grandpa.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Anyway, that USDR was a squirrel hunting, you know, way back then. But anyway, we got them, but then my dad had a little dog. I seen this stock of dogs, and he was out of Streak and a that Yellow Rose female. And that Yellow Rose went back to Cane Ridge Turn, and that Cane Ridge Turn was a streak before Streak. You know, Cane Ridge Turn was. He was the streak dog before Streak. He's a little black back and brown-legged dog, real good little dog. And the female was out of Cane Ridge Turn, and the daddy of them dogs was Streak, and every one of them would tree. I mean, you know, I'm not saying every one of them is world champion, but every one of them, they had the most consistent treeing and, you know, hunting stuff than any I'd ever been around. And I like that crossbred cross I'd ever seen at that point. And I'm still hunting. I'm on my 7th generation, I think, down from them dogs on one side of my dogs right now, I think, is what it is. It's at least 7, I think. But anyway, we got her, and I bred her she was out of Streak and Yellow Rose, and I took and bred her to Jackson. We got a really good cross, and then we kind of land bred and off and on, you know, down through the line, and I ended up with the Rowdy dog, which we won the LMC World Hunt with, you know, in 21, I think it was. One that wound up with him. I think he is the 6th generation down from that line on that side that I've had, or 7th. I can't remember. Anyway, I've got 2 pups at him right now. It would be the 7th, I'm pretty sure, out of that same line. But and then I had I got to fiddling with Alan Franklin about that time back in the, I don't know, early 2000s, I guess. Something like that, 2000 something, 8, I guess, 7. Hunted with the dog Allens, and man, I really liked him. He had that, you know, dogs Allens had a lot of go and a lot of speed and a lot of heads up, you know, like I like, you know.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, I went and we got Kane off of him, the Thunder Sport Kane dog, you know. I got him, and I trained him, and then I sold him back to Alan, you know, when he was 2, and then Alan went on and won the World Hunt with him that fall. Anyway, then after that, I was at a hunt one time, and there was 2 little black dogs standing over, and I've always been a sucker I always liked the black dog. But anyway, these 2 little black males standing over there, and they're 6 months old, and the guy was selling them. And I walked over, and they little short, stocky dogs. I like a dog, kind of a stocky dog, you know, kind of built. Anyway, they squirrel dog looking little dogs. And I walked over, and it was, I asked the dude, I said, what are them out of? And he said, black. That's how I done had Kane at that point and sold him. And they said, blackjack. And he let her make which I hunted blackjack and hunts for Alan. You know, I hunted him in the World Hunt and got 2nd place win the World Hunt for him, you know. And anyway, they had them 2 little dogs, and they sold them. They're 6 months old, and they went out. I'd like to have one of them, but they took them out, and that guy, they treated 4 squirrels apiece, and that guy bought both of them from Kentucky. Anyway, I was talking to them, and they said they got a litter of them down there right now, same litter, you know. And I called David Shaddix, the guy that raised them. He had the blackjack dog, and he raised the female. But called him, and he said, I told him, I said, I want the blackest one. And the littlest and the meanest one. That's what I told him. Dave's puppy. He said, I've got this what you're looking for. That's funny, I guess. He said, I've got this what you're looking for. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. He said, I've got a female that fits that to a T. And I said, well, I want her. And anyway, I went and got her, and I got her home, and that was, and what's crazy is that was a I put her out here in this pen, and that was a barking. She squalled from the time I put her in that pen until my kids went out there and got her that night about midnight. Anyway, I call what's ironic about that. She's the quietest dog I've ever owned. I named her Shadow. That's what, she's the quietest dog I've ever owned in my life. That's what's odd, ain't it? Mm-hmm. It don't make no sense, but that was the noisiest pup ever. So I called David Shaddix at daylight, and I said, David, I've got to have another pup. Keep this thing occupied, Anyway, I went back there and got her and brought the other one back with her, and that's kind of where my shadow dog come from. We won them world hunts with, and she's by far the best reproducer I ever even thought about having. I mean, every time I've ever bred her, everything I'd get out of her would tree. You didn't have to fool with them much. You just turn them loose, and they just go to treeing,
Mm-hmm.
Had hunt in them, and they had tree. I bred her to Dan one time, and which her and her litter mate, this is what's a little bit, when I won the OMC Big World Hunt with Shadow, her and her litter mate was in the finals with each other. I don't know if I've ever heard that ever happen in anything. There was 67 dogs there that day, and me and her, there's only 2 litter mates there, and they was in the finals against each other that day.
Sounds like
so that was pretty. That was pretty ironic, I guess. I mean, out of 67 dogs, they was the last 2 standing.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, that was kind of ironic, I guess. But anyway, I got her, and I bred her to my Dan dog, which I got 6 generations. Dan was a 6th, and I got Rowdy, which was the 7th, and she inhabits 1 pup. And anyway, we won a world hunt with him and made grand, and he's won a lot of money, Rowdy has. And then I bred her to Hummer, and she had, I think, 2 litters. She had 18, in which you probably heard a couple of them, Jet, and, Jet dog has won everything, and
mm-hmm.
I trained her and kept her till she's about a little over 2 years old, and I sold her to Dale and Jeremy. Which I sold her to Dale really first, Dale Stanley from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Sold her to Dale, and then Dale and Jeremy went in on her. Then let's see, and I had H2, and I had all them dogs. They was just a real good cross. Brad Lucas down there, Alabama's got that Rocky dog, and H2 out there, and I was in the finals. That's another 2 litter mates. Me and, I got the Thunder dog out of Shadow and Hummer, and me and H2 was in the finals at South Carolina against each other in a world hunt. That don't happen every day, I don't think, but Thunder and H2 litter mates. So, but yeah, it was just a real. She just a real good. She just told real good pups. She didn't have to fool with them none much. I mean, and they would just tree. And they hunted. They just always hunted and always treated her pups did. Then I bred her a couple more times on later on, and they was all just really nice little dogs. I mean, really good squirrel dogs, and something you could take and tree a sack full, at least, and come back home.
Mm-hmm.
She's a good reproducer.
To kind of back you up just a little bit again, you mentioned you kind of line bred back and forth. I was just kind of curious. So what crosses when you were line breeding? What was kind of your strategy, and what did you find seemed to work good for you, and also what didn't seem like it worked?
Okay,
there was any of that.
I can tell you what didn't work.
Well, let's hear it
off the bat, and that was son to mama, and I don't like that close. I do not. I mean, that is too close. The best cross I ever seen is, in my opinion, is uncle to niece. That's what Shadow is. I mean, she's uncle niece, and some of my better dogs I've hunted with over the years, and we've done it. Uncle to niece is really, when it hits, it seems like you can get the best stuff out of them. I don't know how it works, but man, when it hits, it really hits good. I tell you another I really liked, and that when we was line breeding them dogs, how we line bred that line that I'm talking about, which is Rowdy and them, we use first cousins a lot.
Mm-hmm.
First cousins is a really good cross. Seems like that cross, when we bred the first cousins, we kind of lost a little bit of what we had. I don't know, kind of odd a little bit, I guess. I mean, we kind of lost some of that. But then when we bred it back again, it come back again. Because I let my buddy have Dan when he's a puppy. And anyway, I was down there, and I heard he was treeing stuff. 4 months old, he treed his first coon, on his fence row. And he lets him run loose all the time. I was down there, and I thought, man, I'm going to go there and see that dog. And I just couldn't believe that it came back. But anyway, I went down there, and I pulled up. I got out of the truck, and it was about October. And, man, I heard my Katie bitch had the prettiest chopped mouth. You sit there on a rock and listen to her all day. The one I started out with, she had the prettiest ringing chop I've ever heard. Probably still ever heard to this day. I love to hear that dog trees. You've heard them dogs had that real pretty ringing, I pulled up and I got out of the truck and I shut the door and I'm like, man, that's Katie down there trees. That's the first thing that went in my mind. That's, because I've heard that many a day, that chop mouth, that, sounded just like her. And anyway, Charles come out and we went down there and there he was standing there treeing. I said, man, I'd like to have, it looked just like her too. I said, man, I'd like to have that dog. And Charles finally let me have him back, But he was out of a cross that we lost kind of some of it. Then we bred it back again and it kind of come back. Like I said, I don't know, how that works or don't work, but
no,
it's either there or it's not.
When you said you bred it back again, what describe the cross? I don't guess I'm tracking on.
We bred cousins to begin with. Well, we bred half brother and sister to begin with to get them dogs. Okay. And then we outcrossed them on a two-stone candy bitch and on Apache female. Let's say the male dog was Hammer. Okay, we bred him to a two-stone candy female I had. Then we took the Katie female out of Katie, which would have been the sister to the other one. We took her and bred her to Apache. Well, and them crosses was not as good as the dogs before. They lost that mouth, both crosses, not one cross, but both crosses. They lost, but we outcrossed though, but they was already inbred, but we outcrossed them. That's when they lost their mouth. That's kind of when they lost the traits that I liked in them. You know what I'm saying? Not that they wasn't decent dogs, but they lacked what I wanted. The cross before them, which was so good, you could turn them loose. I could sit on I believe I could take Katie and Hammer and sit in the middle of New York and turn them loose, and they would be treed somewhere. I mean, that's what I thought of, and they would do it. I remember one guy pulled up here one time. It was 100 degrees. You know how it is in July and August. And he's like, "You reckon she could treat one?" I said, "I know she can." I said, you never doubt that dog. If she had to go 5 miles, she would go. You know what I mean? I said, "She will go till she finds one." He said, "I don't believe it." I said, "We turned her loose, and it was a while before she treed, but when she treed, I mean, we had to go to her. When she parked it, you had to go to her if it took you all day. That's the only problem was back then. I loved to have her with a Garmin. See, back then I had a beep, and you had to ride around all day long looking for her. And she'd have a complete path right around the bottom of that tree where she's standing there and treed, But anyway, but then when we outcrossed them 2 times, yeah, we did lose it. But I figured, them dogs was so tight inbred, they'd have held some of them traits. You know what I mean? You would think they would have, but they don't sometimes. And then we took them 2 and bred them back together. The female out of Apache and Katie, and the male dog, which had been first cousins, that cross would have, out of Hammer and the two-stone candy female, and bred them together. We got Dan, and that's where they came back again. He sounded just like Katie and looked just like Katie. And every one of them dogs, one of them won a state hunt. One of them was a reserve world champion in NKC one year. And Dan was really good. I mean, I never did competition on him once and sold him to got players. I mean, he was better than all of them. I mean, really. They was just a whole litter of nothing but really good, really good dogs. Oh, they had what we was looking for again. They had the mouth. They had the hunt. Had the tree in them. Had the stay put. And dogs was not, they was not, they had not odd, but they had a tree style that was this, they just had a rhythm and they never got out of that rhythm and they stayed there all day long. It's kind of like they got and they wasn't a crazy tree dog at all. They would just get in there and get treed, and they had a little rhythm to them. Oh, 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 oh. That's how, and they'd be sitting there doing that the rest of the evening. You know, they never did get in a hurry. They never did start barking more. They never did start barking less. They just sit there and, oh, 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 you know, and they could tree all day long like that. Wasn't a crazy tree dog, but it's a stay put tree dog. You know, most time you think a stay put tree dog that's got a little bit of crazy, they ain't got to have, you know, that crazy intense, they ain't got to have that. Because them dogs didn't. I mean, they had intensity, but they was just like they calmed down when he treed. They just sit there and just stare at that tree, you know. Yeah. Like he's looking at something on the side of that tree, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They stare at one spot, treeing. That's kind of what kind of dogs he was. Just hard hunting little dogs, you know. I like their mouth. I like a dog with a really good mouth. That's one thing I really like is a good mouth on a dog and a hard hunting dog. And a heads up dog. I mean, you know, you need a head up dog, or I want one that's got its head up. Hard to find everything you want in a dog, isn't it?
It is. It's a puzzle with a lot of pieces, and it's hard to get them all lined up right.
Yeah.
You mentioned you didn't like the son to mama cross, and I don't remember where I'd heard it, but I'd heard a saying about that at one point. I think I think the saying goes, you're not supposed to put something back where it came from.
No, I think yes. I think father daughter is better than mama to son. I've seen a few of them all right, you know.
Well, what ended up with the dogs that were son to mama?
Well, it doubled up. It doubled up stuff that made the dog good to begin with. You see what I'm saying? The dog it was, like a lot of the really good dogs has got odd things to them, don't they? I mean, that's just the truth. Mm-hmm. It's not really normal. The really, really good dog has got odd stuff to them. That's like the dog that we inbred back on was the most independent dog you've ever fooled with. The mama, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, she to a point to where you'd have to whoop her to make her stay at a tree when she's young because the dog come in on her. She hated being around another dog, right? Well, okay. When we done that dog out of her would tree and do good by himself. But if you put a dog in the woods with him, he wouldn't stay treed. If you hunted 24 hours, he wouldn't stay at a tree. Never. And he like it magnified it kind of like when you put a dog in the woods with him, it seemed like he was just like, I just want to get away from him, but he seemed like he's always trying to, you know, it seemed like it just made it worse, you know. Mm-hmm. She is the point of just about being, when she was little, I mean, we had to whoop her to make her stay. I had to get on to her. She'd want to leave if a dog come to her. They make one bark, she'd look at them, you know, like a rocket, gone, you know. Just the point of just about being, and most of my dogs has got that in them, you know, or somewhat. But if you don't inbreed on it real tight, it's about, you know, it stays about right, seems like. A lot of my dogs, I have to get on to them when they're little, like because we'll get into how I train them, I guess, eventually. But you know, a lot of my dogs has got that trait in them that whenever a dog comes to them, they won't leave. You know, they just don't like training with another dog, you know. Mm-hmm. Kind of independent to a fault. It is a fault if they can't get them to stay, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of how that cross went. But uncle to niece, and I've seen so many good ones out of them crosses. I mean, that's a really good cross, uncle to niece. Seems like you can get the best of both worlds out of that. It seemed like a lot of times you can get a lot of the best stuff along with, you know, a lot of mixture in them, you know, of the good stuff, you know, if you got a good line of dogs.
How often do you like to outcross when you're line breeding like that?
I like having something in on one side, you know, like a quarter. Mm-hmm. I like a quarter of it to be a little something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you was doing uncle to niece, the niece one side would be a different bred, a different strain of dog, and then breed it back to him, which would be, she'd be kind of half that stuff bred to him. I've never seen it or done it when both sides on the one, on the knee side was the same line of dog, you know what I mean, as he is.
Mm-hmm.
I'd want one side to be an opposite, a different line of dogs than what they are. But like how we do it, like Thunder and Dan, like Thunder and Rowdy or something, or we do it like that, but then the other side, like I said, I wanted something else, some other line of dogs, but they're so close. A lot of them are. You're going to have a little bit of something, in there the same.
Yeah.
To some extent, I guess, because these mountain curs, they ain't crazy inbred, I guess, but they can be at times, I guess, if you stay the same line a long time. But but when I bred Shadow and Hummer together, they was kin, but they wasn't, crazy kin. I guess they'd been distant cousins, I guess, to some extent. But that was a really good cross. I mean, like I said, I don't know how many world champions. They was several world champions and several grands and several dogs of the years come out of that bunch, They was pretty good pups too. But that's kind of the breeding part, which, I mean, I don't really call myself a big breeder. I wish I'd have kept a lot more female. I wish I'd have kept every female Shadow had, is what I wish I'd have done. And I didn't do it. I just don't like keeping a bunch of dogs that I can't hunt them all. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that. I mean, I've got semen on Blackjack, which is her daddy, and I've got semen on Dan, which is Rowdy's daddy. I've had that line for 8 generations now, or whatever it is, but I've got semen on him too. But now you was talking about training. You said something about training dogs too, right?
Yep. I was
like I told you, I'm probably not. My training method is probably not the best training methods ever. I mean, I think more people honestly could. There's a lot of people a lot better than me at training dog. But I've trained I've trained several that won world hunts. I think my method is a little bit more. I don't know. It takes longer, I guess you say, than what it normally would if you do it the other ways. But how I do them, I like keeping 2 pups all the time. I like keeping 2, and I'll get them out here, and I live where I can let them run. Let them run loose. And I'll get them out here and let them run around, and I'll put feeders up, and eventually I'll catch them a squirrel. And about 3 or 4 months old, I'll catch them one, and a lot of the good ones will tree it. I mean, people don't think they, but they will. I mean, a lot of the good ones will tree it that young. But anyway, then I just start walking in the woods around feeders, and then I just start walking in the woods, period. But then once they start treeing in the woods, I take that other one away. I take them apart from each other, I separate them again. Then when I separate them, I start just walking around by themselves. But then, like I said, well, later on, when they get to treeing really good, like I said, I walk in there to them, and I don't never tie a dog. I mean, I'm just the opposite of a lot of people. I don't ever tie a young dog, hardly. And I think I get that from back when years and years ago, we didn't have Garmins and we didn't have shot collars, and that's how we train dogs. You know what I mean? Back years ago, just how I do mine still to this day. So what I do is when one trees, if it trees a good tree, I'll get in there to it and kill that squirrel to it. If it's a good tree, every dog ain't gonna, young dog ain't going there and just sit down like a hound, and sit there treeing every breath, on the first tree it makes, and from then on, they ain't gonna do that, A lot of dogs don't anyway. Or a lot of mine don't anyway. Well, I go in there, and on the really good trees, I get a squirrel eye to them. And all it takes is a few of them, but I go to a lot of trees that I'll be there with them, or I get right to them and they leave. I don't make them come back or nothing. So I don't ever do none of that. I don't make them come back. I'll let them just roll on, And I think what it kind of does to me in the long run, I know it takes a lot. I could make it come back, and I can make a tree on that tree, and I could probably shoot a squirrel out to it. But But I think what I'm doing, how we used to do it, and how I still do it, I think it makes a more accurate kind of dog. You know what I mean? I never make them tree a tree. You know what I mean? I never make them like when mine barks a lick or two. Like when they're young, I don't make them bark. I don't make them tree. Uh, if they don't sit down and tree, I just walk. I walk past them and go on. You know.
Mhm.
Or I push them on. Like, and once a young dog gets to treeing pretty good, and I get shooting several out to it here and there, and they'll all get in there and fumble around on the tree. Well, I'll get in there too, mine, and I'll get it by the collar and I'll get it out there. I don't like that. You know, it makes them either. To me, it makes them either sit down and tree that quicker, number one, or it makes them not even fool with that and roll on. You know.
Mhm.
That's one of the two things I want to happen. It don't really matter which one happens to me, really. You know what I mean? I want them to do it quicker. I want them not in there. You know, one or two.
Mhm.
That's kind of what I do with my, and that's pretty much the only thing I do with my dogs, honestly. I don't ever time, like I told you. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't never time, and when I want my dogs to make a mistake, because when I walk in there to them, especially young dog, I've done shot 5 or 10, 15 out to, man, I walk in there and I'll stand there with that dog. And if I see that squirrel sitting up there, I will stand there with that dog until it loses interest. I don't care if it's 30, 45 minutes or an hour. It don't matter to me. I want to stand there until that dog loses, or that squirrel gets a timbering or moving. It's going to leave. I'll shoot it. If I'm sitting there watching that squirrel and that squirrel will not move, I'll sit there with that dog until that dog wants to lose a little interest, and I'll get them back on the tree and I'll shoot it out to them. So that's kind of, I don't know what that does to them either, but that's just kind of how I've always done it, you know.
It definitely foster staying put.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, my dog is generally pretty good at, and I think this is probably some of it. If my dog's right there in front of you, I can tree my dog. I'm not worried about that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because where I've always just stood there with them, you know, never tied them or nothing. I can treat my dog. It don't bother me in the least to treat my dog standing right out there. I'll do it in a heartbeat. Anybody that's ever hunted with me know they better not tree around me. If you ever hunted competition hunting with me, they say they shouldn't tree if they don't want put on the paper. I mean, if they get minus, it's on them. You know, that's why I look at it. You know, but. If they barking, they gonna get on the paper for me. I don't care if I'm up 300 or 400 points. If mine barks, you just well go ahead and put him down because I ain't gonna stand there and listen to him. I'm gonna treat him and I'm gonna go to him. You know, and that's cost me a few times. They're like, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Well, I just can't stand listening to a dog tree. I guess I think he should be treed. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way I see it. When a dog trees, I think he should be treed. That's kind of what. It ain't a very good way to train them, I don't guess, but that's how I train them. You know.
Well, I've got some questions on. You kind of skimmed over just letting them run loose, and I'm a firm believer that a lot of times something that someone might think is just a little thing, but they're doing things intentionally, whether they're even thinking about it or not. Maybe that you've been doing it for so long. So, like, when you're letting them run loose, how does that look? Like, what age are you letting them run? Like, you mentioned you like to let keep two of them together.
Yeah. But I'll stop you before I get off, before I forget this one little thing, and I'll come back to it.
Okay.
I'll tell you what two of them does. If you got a competitive dog, it'll bring it out in that one, but it'll make that other one, you're kind of going to hurt the other a little bit, right? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In order to get that number one dog, you're going to hurt the other one a little bit when they're little. Because what's going to happen is that real competitive, that real drive, that hard-going pup, independent pup, is going to drag that along with him everywhere it goes, ain't he?
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to try to, I tell you, the best example of that ever was Shadow. I had her little mate running with her. Shadow, people's been on competition hunting with her, probably have seen her do this a few times, and she was so smart, and she learned that from running loose with her sister. Okay, what she would do she hated her sister being around her, right?
Mhm.
So what Shadow would do, Shadow would get in the woods over there. She wasn't 3 months old, and she'd bark a couple licks. Well, Millie would go to her. Millie would try the tree, and Shadow would sneak out of there and be 400 or 500 yards in tree. Like wham. So she hung her up. She figured out how to hang her up, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ever seen a dog do that before?
I have not seen a dog do that.
I've seen
Not that I've
a
noticed.
couple hounds do it. I've seen a couple hounds do it, and I've seen her do it. She figured that out by running loose because she couldn't get away from her. So she figured out a way to get away from her. Well, she won the World Hunt that year in the NKC. The dog was with her. We turned him loose and Shadow treed instantly about 400 yards, and that dog come back in. Well, that dog went to her. Well, okay, went to her and she had a squirrel. I got 100 plus, and she got 0 because she couldn't get to her before the tree was already closed, right? Okay, the second tree, Shadow went her about 300 or 400 yards and slammed another one, and she got a second tree on that tree right before it went out, right? I looked at Danny and Jeremy Nichols. I looked at them, and I know what she was going to do. I hunted her every day of her life, just about it. She could go and I could go, but I know her like the back of my hand. And I turned her loose. I said, watch this. I looked at Jeremy. I said, watch what she's fixing to do. Well, I turned her loose, and she went right across that little drain, just fumbling around. She don't fumble around. I don't know if you ever, anybody's ever hunted where it tell you she don't fumble around. She went across that little hollow there and just went over, and that dog was kind of following her. She went over and barked up. She looked back at that dog and looked up a little tree there and barked one lick. And she went to easing off, just really slow. And she looked back over her shoulder, and she seen that dog come up there at that tree. She made 3 or 4 or 5 licks, and Shadow made another little lick there. And about that time, that dog just sat down. And you see Shadow going up the side of that mountain there, but we all sat there and watched her. She's going up the side of that mountain real slow. And she got about 100 yards, and she went shoo, like a bolt of lightning, right? Before she could get her treed in on that tree, I done had Shadow treed in at 400 in there. Before he got her treed in on that tree we standing in front of, she was done treed at 400. And anyway, but I tell you what it done to Millie, though, to get her, it kind of sacrificed another dog a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, kind of made her want a me too.
Yes, it made her a me tooer. And in my opinion, the harder hunting dog will never be the me tooer, hardly. I mean, you ever notice that? I mean, the hardest hunting pup, you got 3 pups. One of them hunts harder than the other 2. The hardest hunt one ain't gonna be a me tooer. The other 2 will, right? Mm-hmm. That's just the way it goes, ain't it? And anyway, that's kind of. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but man, I was going to forget.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm glad you jumped in.
That's something that I seen when you said that. That's something I seen that I could use, but I'm going to get a lesser dog and the other dog goes. The problem. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's kind of the problem with that. But anyway, get back to your. I interrupted your question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. It's no. I enjoyed that. On age, so what age did you say you're letting them? And kind of, I guess I want to know more on. Are you letting them run loose 24/7? Are you pinning them at night? You only letting them run loose whenever you're kind of around to maybe hear them tree, or
the best way, I'm telling you, the best way to me. I can't do it no more because my wife's got a 4-pound Yorkie. My wife, I said she trained a lot of my dogs back years ago. Anyway, I tell you why I say that. But now my wife's got a 4-pound Yorkie, so I can't let him run loose 24/7 because that little 4-pound Yorkie thinks she's 75 pounds. And she wants to fight everything that's got 4 legs. So, and if one of my dogs hurt her, she weighs 4 pounds, I would probably not be here anymore, probably. So I can't let him run loose 24/7. That's the best way to do it. And I tell you how we always did it. You don't even have to put feeders out or nothing when you let them run loose 24/7. Tell you, I always did it. I turn them out here and never look at them again until I'm. And I tell you, a lot of times you'll hear a dog hit a lick or 2 over yonder. You'll never go to it. If you're out working in the yard or working on a fence or something, I'll never go to one hitting a lick or 2. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't even pay it no attention when he hit 2 or 3 licks in there. See, that's okay. And then one day you'll come home, I mean, they don't know how long they've been treed. A good pup will do that. Every one of them will. You'll come home or you'll get out of the truck and you'll hear something with a solid tree in there, and then you go to them. But like I said, like I think what that goes with about training like I train a pup when I'm doing them that way is that doing that right there is going to make them accurate because you're not going to that pecking round. They're either going to start leaving them alone or tree them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of on the thing of never making a dog tree in my life. You know what I'm saying?
You're not encouraged.
I'd rather get a dog off a tree. I never encourage a dog ever to bite the mark. I never do. That's something you ask me about there. I never encourage a dog to bark up a tree. I just that's how the old guys around here taught me how to train dogs when I was little, and that's kind of still, how I do it to this day. I really don't know no other way to, I could probably, as you call it, making wood, I guess. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I tell you what I think happens is a puppy runs out there and hits a lick, but that ain't where that squirrel's at. I mean, this is my opinion. 99% of the time, that's not where that squirrel's probably at, in my opinion, because you hardly ever find them. You know what I mean? The puppy will hit a lick or two, but what it is, he's hitting where it went down or something. It's probably on around there somewhere. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if I go in there on it and make it tree that tree, I feel like I'm making it slick tree. That's just the way I feel like, So I never praise one, and the only thing I ever do is pretty much shoot them out. And when I shoot one out, I said I never praise one, but I will when a young dog is young one time, when I first shoot the 5 or 10, when that squirrel gets in that puppy's mouth, I'll praise it. That's it. I don't never praise one ever or make it bark or nothing, but that's the one time I'll say good boy, and that's it, kind of. But that's kind of how that goes. But the running loose, man, they is nothing like running loose. They is no hunting you could do to make a better dog, in my opinion. There's nothing you can do to make a better dog as you will running loose when they're young. It brings out they're so smart. I mean, it just crazy smart is what it is, but it's pretty simple though. I mean, when one's treeing right, you just go to them. That's the only time you ever go to one of them when they're running loose. That's the only time we ever went to one.
Yeah. How long on average with most pups do you let them run loose before they get to that point?
Man, most of them. And squirrel hunting has got a lot to do with the time of year. I mean, that's just my opinion. It is hard to tree a squirrel in July and June and August and September, early September. It's hard but you can have a puppy born in, let's say, December, January, or just as long as he is coming around about 9 months, 6, 7, 8, 9 months old, November, December, right in there, October, November, December. If he hits that 6, 7, 8, 9 months old in that time frame, he'll be treeing at that time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He might be treeing before that, but man, that time of year, that time frame and that time of year, but it's like you take the same puppy you take that same time frame, right? Like in the fall, like in the great hunting, you take a puppy that's 7 months old, he'll start as good as a 12-month-old. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the time of year, something that got a lot to do with it, and it's a puppy too. But I mean, anything when something's easy, I mean, if squirrel is easy to tree, I mean, it's going to be easy for even one that's less advanced,
Yeah.
Than what a 12-month-old or a 7-month-old or a 5-month-old, but Lord, now we got a lot of dogs training more. It's 5 months old, 4 months. That's like Jet. I bought her. I sold her the puppy to Paul Clifton Robinson when she was 6 weeks old. She was treeing squirrels on the internet. I mean, everybody's seen her live. He's putting it on her live, and she was 8 weeks old. She was treeing squirrels. I went down there and I gave $2,500 for her when she's about 3 months old. That's a lot of money for a 3-month-old pup.
Yes, it is.
She was treeing squirrels when she went backwards. I mean, like some dogs will, I remember one time I turned her loose down there at Tullahoma, and she was pretty young then. She wasn't, but I don't know how young she was, but she's pretty young. I walked from one end of that place to the other, and she was going 600, 800, 900 yards between every tree. And a lot of my dogs don't turn back. I mean, a lot of people don't like my dog because they like just rolling, just straight on. They're young. They like firing in there straight, kind of, I guess you say. I don't know. But anyway, she was firing in there 500, 600, 700, 800 and treeing and leaving. Well, I just kept on walking. It was about the 7th or 8th tree before I got to her. We walked in a straight line that whole time. I just kept going to her, finally out of that tree, when I finally got to her, I killed like 5 or 6 in a row to her as quick as I get her off the tree. And from that day on, she quit that stuff, So I don't know. Dogs I like letting them be a dog. I mean, just my opinion. To me, it's just like if you was playing football or basketball or something, you as a kid, and somebody's over top of you, beating you and whooping on you, yelling on you every day, you probably wouldn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
I like dogs that love it, and if a dog don't love it, I'm probably not gonna like that dog very good. The dog that loves it is the good ones. I mean, they're the really good ones, ain't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and it's just, I don't like or put it this way, I don't like taking no heart out of them. There's like you with a horse, taking the spirit out of them, you'd say, I guess. I don't like taking much spirit out of a dog. But then they're running loose. But once they get to, but the thing about running loose, whenever I finally get to that first tree, I'm telling you, they're pretty much trained. I mean, that's how much a difference it is. Pretty much, but they've done treed a zillion times, though. You know what I'm saying? If they're any count, they've done tried to tree over here. I mean, you're not seeing none of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that first tree you get to, that thing's in there just sitting there. And a lot of times you'll pull up, get out of the truck, and you're like, man, that pup's treed, And you'll go in there to it, and it'll have a cat or anything, coon or squirrel, tell what it'll have,
Yeah.
Possum from the night before. You don't never know what they're going to have when they run loose, And it don't really matter. I mean, that thing is done treed so much at that point. If it's a really good pup, that thing's done had a lot of practice in treeing stuff, But like I said, from that day on, I've took them from that first tree and put them up and take them the next time we take them. Like that little Katie bitch, she was, man, she had a little bit of age on her. She had so much go when she was young. She was like 15, 18 months old before I could ever turn her loose. She you see her coming, she'd hit a deer, and she'd stay gone. This is a little cur dog now. She'd stay gone for 2 days on a deer.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, my dog, they had go. I mean, they had more.
Sounds like
they had
it.
as much go. They had as much go as any dog I've ever seen in my life. When they come back, poor Katie would lay on the ground out there in the yard. She'd be so sore her feet would. You'd holler at her, and she just barely raise her head and look at you. She'd be laying in the yard, out in the middle of the yard somewhere. She wouldn't even move a lick. She'd lay there it'd be coming to rain, and she'd be laying out there in it.
Mm.
Wherever she laid down, wherever she got to and got laid down, she just had to lay there. She was so wore, and feet was so sore. I mean, she would smoke a deer so bad. And finally, she got to stay in tree a little bit more. And she was about 15 or 18, way up in there in age before I could ever. Then I took her loose. I turned her loose out there in a place called a swamp. And that sucker she hit a rabbit first, ran it. I treed like 8 squirrels with her. And then she hit another deer and stayed gone for 3 days on me that time. And I took her back and turned her back loose again. We took her and turned her loose again for another 2 or 3 weeks or a month, letting her run some more. We always let them just run it out of them, we called it,
Yeah.
Them deer running and stuff. Until she started staying tree continually all the time, I wouldn't hunt her. Because she had way too much going her you couldn't hunt her, Boy, she had that's that one I was telling you, had such a beautiful chopped mouth. I mean, I'd sit on a log or a stump a lot of times and listen to her. She had a real good mouth on her. Had a real good tone, when she's treed.
Yeah.
really pretty mouth on her. But that's kind of but nobody, you can't hardly let a dog run loose anymore. I mean, it's just about, I can hear still somewhat, but it's just about impossible in most places, ain't it?
Yeah, I've got where I'm at. I'll let one run, but I just can't hardly let myself let one
You
just
think something will happen
go
to it?
half feral. Yeah, I mean there's a
You need to get that. You need to get that out of your mind, in my opinion.
yeah
They make them every day.
yeah, and
Hey,
I've
get on
thought
your
about
mind. They
that.
make them every day.
Yeah, yeah, I have considered that.
My dad had a best little Walker female you ever seen in your life, man. I mean, she was Finley River. She was Spring Creek Radar and Finley River Dan female back in 82, 81. She was a coon. If I could find one like her today, I don't hound today. I would. I don't think there's one exactly like her. Not that I've ever hunted with. Man, she could treat coons. But anyway, we think if she got bred in the pen, and the dog didn't get bred in the pen.
Mm-hmm.
Our buddy that lived right beside us had a cur dog at a streak. I know what happened. He put her in there with him. That's what happened. We was gone. Jeff come up there and put her in there with her, I think, or somebody did. Somebody put a cur dog because she had cur dog pups. Anyway, man, my dad, I don't know why he done this. He killed every one of them at once. Don't know why he did that. I don't have a clue. I told Dad, I said she could raise 9 as good as she can raise 1, just pretty much. But anyway, he killed every one of them at one. He wished he hadn't, no matter said and done. But anyway, that little sucker went to train at 4 months old. I mean, he was a tree dog, a puppy. A tree dog is a puppy. We was letting him run, and Dad starting to put him up. Started to put him up here and there, and we turned him out of the pen, and he know where them squirrels was across the road. He went straight to the road, and guess what? Kablam.
Yep.
Killed. Dead as a hammer. I mean, he didn't even move when the car hit him. He was a nice little puppy, a little brindle white pup. Dad told Dad, I guess Dad's a little bit more naive, and we all kind of was, I guess. Dad's like, man, I just don't see how they bred her through that pen. And later on in years, I'm like, they didn't breed her through that pen. Ain't no way. A 2x4 wire, they didn't breed her through that pen.
Yeah.
Somebody went up there and put a dog in there with her, I'm telling you, didn't they?
More than likely.
That's what I said. I told Dad, I said, Dad, there ain't no way that happened. I didn't think it was anyway. But my dad had a lot of really good dogs, man. They was some really good dog men in this country way back yonder. They were some really good guys with dogs anyway. They was some really good dogs around here. Even before, we had her, 87 was the first squirrel hunt, like I was telling you. And I even know W90 was the first on CVA World Squirrel Hunt. But we was pretty competitive around home here. Somebody killed 15 that evening. We'd all hear about it. And everybody had a squirrel dog, down there where we was. So you hear about it and you're like, well, man, that guy's better than this dog. You know how it goes. They's pretty competitive even before there's ever a squirrel hunt ever, You wouldn't think they would be, but I think that come around from way back in the Depression around here. And we live in a poor country, honestly, and they ain't much around here. And they still ain't much around here, really. And in the ground's poor. I mean, it's old rocky, hilly ground. It ain't no counting either. I mean, as far as that goes. But back in the Depression, I guess people used to. Well, everybody did. I mean, my dad lived in the Depression. My mama did too. I'm the youngest one out of 6. And anyway, my dad was the oldest one. So anyway, of his family, but they used to eat, squirrels and rabbits and whatever. They'd eat possums and everything back then. They didn't have nothing. They had to,
Uh-huh.
My dad said they had to have dogs to do it with. The dogs is part of it, Which, A.D. Ledbetter, the one that started it in the Royal River Dog, that's all right here at the house,
Yeah.
Yeah, they all come from right here. The Moody guy, the A.D. Ledbetter, the Davis, the Roy Evers right here at the house, Carlocks, that was his wife's family. They had dogs up here above me on the mountain up there. I mean, they was mountain curs all over this country back. Well, I say mountain curs. I don't know. Things mountain curs. They was mixed up dogs, wasn't they? I guess.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of how all that come about. But the running loose, man. If I was you, I get that out of my mind about that getting something happening, man. I would let him. If I could let this Yorkie's 9-year-old, and when that Yorkie, my wife said she'd never get another inside dog. I'm like, think that's good, because now when about another 4 or 5 years, there'll be dogs run loose around here from then on. Like I said, I've had dogs since I've been a kid. And I guess I always will have. There'll be dogs running loose, and I won't care if they get run over. I hate to say that, but because man, I mean it just takes all that out of that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The best dogs I ever had was run loose too when they was little. The top 3 or 4 or 5 dogs ever owned in my life, I will run loose when they was little. So it makes a difference in my opinion. But like I said, it's just impossible to do that in most places now. Sure is, but that's kind of how all that come about. The letting them run loose, and and that. But
well, Bobby, we've went a little bit over the hour, which is not a big deal at all.
Okay.
Got anything else you want to talk about before we get off here?
I told you don't want to talk to me much about a dog. I could have went another 3 or 4 hours probably.
Oh, that's all right. We'll have to get you back on here sometime before long.
Yeah, we can talk about all the old people and the old dogs around here. There was a lot of goods around here.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you though. Appreciate you having me on, and appreciate all you do.
Hey, well, thank you for giving us your time and agreeing to the interview.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, if you don't have nothing else you want to talk about before we get off here,
I think that's about it for now.
All right. Well, everybody, take care and keep wearing out that boot leather. I just want to give everyone that's listening a sincere thank you. Getting this podcast going has been a project. I really hope you're enjoying it, and if you don't mind, give the show a good rating and review wherever you're listening to it at, or share it on your social media to help get some traction. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to your feedback.